All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Had to fix the mic there for a second. Appreciate you guys joining me today. Appreciate you waiting patiently for the intro to finish up there. Got a couple of super chats right off the bat. Waylark says, was it not 5-1 months back, or was that false data? That 5-1 ratio was actually specifically for, I think, a quarter. I think it was Q1 of this year. Apparently, the Xbox console sold less than 1 million units, and I think the PS5 sold multiple millions of units, and so it created like a 5-1 ratio. But like overall, it's not 5-1. PlayStation Pete in all caps says, "I will pay over $3,000 for the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro." And then he follows up by saying, on eBay or StockX, make that $4,000. PlayStation Pete, don't give an F, man. He will pay. He will pay. PlayStation Pete, you got to let me know, man. You got to let me know if you end up snagging one. Cypherpunk says, I'm shocked Xbox has nearly half the sales of PS5. Xbox 28.3 million and PS5 61.7 million. Thought it would be way lower. Yeah, it is. I think the situation and why I'm going to cover this, because I get that. It does seem higher than you would have thought. But it seems like the situation that's arising now is that it doesn't seem like Xbox is going to get much further than that. And the PS5 is still selling pretty well. And that seems to be with the like the wall. Like basically Microsoft hit a wall. Where right now it doesn't sound like too bad. Like, okay, they got 28 million sold, but I guess the idea is like 3 years from now, they're not going to be much further than 30 million sold. And that's kind of the crazy part, or the concerning part, I guess we could say. Michael Lynch, you're saying in your video this morning, you said Sony seemingly abandoned the Days Gone IP. Why do people keep blaming Sony? It was the developers that decided not to do a sequel. That's a great point, Michael, and I probably should have touched on this in my video. There was a clash inside of Sony Bend, and the two directors of Days Gone ended up like exiting the studio because it seemed like there was basically a civil war inside of Sony Bend where like most of the developers there didn't really want to work on a sequel. But there were also like some negative reports about the leadership and whatnot. And so you have to wonder if maybe that had something to do with it. So Sony was like, okay, you guys work on something new. The devs left, or the directors of the game left. But that's what I always found super fascinating about Days Gone is it sold so well, man. Like it was a hit game, you know? And it's just one of these things where it's like, I always kind of imagine that Sony's like, this is a moneymaker, you know? Like we should keep doing this because people like it. It sold really well. We can make more money. But it kind of is problematic if the studio is like, yeah, we don't want to do this. So I don't know, man. We'll have to kind of see if maybe if they end up doing like giving the game to the IP, to somebody else. We're going to talk extensively about that today, though. But guys, all right, a couple things. So as you can see, bottom right corner here, we're aiming for 50 members today. Okay, and listen, you will be rewarded if we hit 50 members gifted today. Well, not just gifted, but just 50 members in general. We're going to do a special members gameplay stream where it will be Astrobot, but it will be a challenge run where we are going to play specifically just the challenge levels, which can be kind of nightmarish, to be honest. So I'll leave it to you guys. If we hit that goal today, if we hit 50 members, when this stream wraps up, we'll do a bonus gameplay stream for members where we do the challenge runs. If not, no big deal, but just a little extra incentive there for you today for this. I mean, the Friday stream is a bonus stream anyway, so. But We need to talk about Concord because I just came across a clip from Sacred Symbols where apparently Colin Moriarty got some kind of inside scoop on the situation with Concord, and holy shit. I didn't listen to the clip yet. It's like a couple minutes long. We're going to listen to it together. But I just read what was typed. And if this is true, holy shit, I am terrified. I need to know who's getting fired, and I need to know immediately who's getting fired, because if this is true, this is so much worse than we thought. I kind of had this suspicion with Concord. I talked to you guys extensively about it. And I'm not trying to like dig up Concord and keep going in on it, but this is extremely relevant. I'm sure this is going to be reported on. I talked to you guys about how I was genuinely very concerned about like who inside of Sony thought this was a good idea. Yeah, like somebody there making decisions, and maybe it was Jim Ryan at the end of the day. Maybe it was him. Seems most likely maybe it was him. He was responsible. But man, all right, we'll get into it. Cypherpunk, you're saying, why is it concerning when we know Microsoft wants to move beyond consoles? They've been killing their console for the past year with their decisions. Well, I guess it's not concerning, right? I don't know. It depends on what viewpoint you have. If you're somebody who cares about the console market, it is concerning because, dude, we're already seeing people like kind of blaming Sony, where it's like, Sony, why don't you have more competition? Like, we need more competition for Sony. And people are convinced that a lot of the moves that Sony's making right now is due to a lack of competition. And we can't prove that either way. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. What we do know is that Microsoft is not competing at a high level anymore. They just seemingly aren't really trying. And to me, that's why it's a little bit concerning. Although I will say at the end of the day, I've kind of already made my peace with it, where it's like, I think Microsoft's just done, like I don't expect them to just suddenly care again, but it is a bit concerning where it's like, if Microsoft isn't there to try to go toe to toe with the PlayStation console, what does that mean? Is it truly bad at the end of the day? Like, will Sony go crazy, or, is it just going to be only slightly worse? Really not that serious at the end of the day. But I get what you're saying, Cypherpunk. It's not news. It's not like, whoa, holy crap. Like, this is, wow, look at how concerning this new report is. It's like, well, I mean, it's kind of been that way. It's been that way for a while. Michael Lynch says, I completed that final master challenge 5th try. That's impressive. I will say, Michael, if that's true, that's impressive. I tip my hat to you, good sir. 5 tries, for me, it was like 50 or more. So good stuff, dude. Let's listen to this. Let's listen to this clip from Sacred Symbols. So I'm going to read the caption, and then we're going to listen to it. Colin Moriarty posts, I spoke extensively with someone who worked on Concord, and it's so much worse than you think. It was internally referred to as, quote, the future of PlayStation with Star Wars-like potential, and the developer culture, it had a dev culture of toxic positivity that halted any negative feedback, making it cost $400 million. Let's listen in. Let me make sure it's coming through. Oh, my Lord. Really quick before we listen in, Waylark says Tom Warren saying it'll be worth tuning into Xbox at TGS. Yeah, I did see that Xbox is going to have some kind of show at TGS, and that'll be interesting because, I mean, it's Japanese focused, right? I bet you Final Fantasy 16 is going to get announced for Xbox. I don't know about FF7 Remake, but I imagine that there will be a heavy Square Enix presence. Maybe Metal Gear. Hell yeah, I'd be excited for that, bro. Metal Gear showed up at the Xbox showcase, and that was like the highlight for me. So I'm glad that both Sony and Microsoft are going to be there. Let's listen into this.
I want to talk about Concord. I wasn't going to ever talk about this game again because who really gives a shit? However, and I don't do journalism really anymore, as you guys know, and we talk about this a lot. I was a journalist at one time, and I used to break a lot of stories, and these days I don't really grind like that. So the stories that I break these days are usually people, always, not usually, always people coming to me. And someone who worked on Concord reached out to me, and I verified who this person was and went through all of that and talked to this person extensively, for a long time. Ooh. And got some, I think, interesting information that I can share about Concord. I think people will be interested about it. The reason that I wanted to talk about it is because some of the assumptions that I had made about the game were dead wrong as far as how much it cost and how much Sony really lost on it. So the big thing that you really need to know here about this is that Concord cost about $400 million to make.
Oh my God.
And the story goes that Concord, by the time Concord was, so in the first quarter of 2023, Concord had basically entered an alpha state. This was before Sony had even purchased the team. But Sony had been working with Probably Monsters, which was the original owner of Firewalk and Firewalk, probably since late 2020, maybe 2021 at the latest on Concord. The game was in development before that. Up to the point that the game went into alpha state, they had already spent about $200 million on it. And it's unclear how much of that money is from Probably Monsters and the original investors into the game and how much of that money was from Sony. There's this term in product development, not only with games, but really with everything. You can like manufacture a tchotchke. You guys might have heard of it. It's called minimum viability, or a minimum viable product. Mm-hmm. The idea behind this, or MVP, the idea behind this is that this is like what you're trying to achieve. And it's like, once you cross this barrier, you feel comfortable selling it. It's not that it's the best it can be, or that it's what it's going to be by the time you launch it, because there's all sorts of extra stuff you do to it. But like, this is the minimum viability of the product. When the game had already had $200 million spent on it and was basically in an alpha form in quarter one of 2023, from that point until the game launched, Sony spent another $200 million on it. The scuttlebutt behind the scenes about Concord is that the game was in a laughable shape when it was shown, and basically like when the alpha was ready to go, and they were kind of being like, we're ready to kind of get moving towards getting this thing out in the next year or two. It was in such horrible shape that Sony felt like they needed to spend that much money again. So, 200 plus 200 to get the game to the MVP status, not to the status of it being like a great game, to get it to just viability. And that at that time in quarter one, 2023, there was nothing done. Like, a major expense was having to urgently outsource much of the game to other studios to finish building the game out. And that two fundamental things were not worked on at all up to the point in which the game was shown in alpha. Onboarding, nothing about that. No, like there was nothing about how players get on, like how they make their character, all that kind of stuff, or, choose their character and get there. And monetization. Two very expensive, very specific and boutique things that happen to games like this. And so that's the first thing that I wanted to say, is that it's not only about the ongoing cost, which would be in the millions to keep the game going per month, but that the game cost about $400 million to make, soup to nuts. Sony put most of that money in, and it is not only so, because we had kind of said like this must be Sony's biggest loss ever on a game, and it is. It's the biggest game Sony's ever released from a budgetary standpoint from the first party or second party. So let that sink in.
It's crazy.
And it's totally unintuitive. There are games that are in development right now at Sony first and second party that are more expensive than this. But as of the games that have come out so far, so think about like Spider-Man 2 and so on and so forth. We know The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million. Spider-Man 3 is going to cost about $350 million. This game costs more than that. And they lost all of it because they made no money. They made about $1 million gross revenue, and then they gave it all back. So this is a huge, multiple hundreds of millions of dollar loss. Now, the question is, why? Why did this happen? This game was heavily championed behind the scenes. Now, we know this because Sony ended up, what's funny is that the game is presented in Q1 2023 as this we're kind of getting towards the end. The game is nowhere near being done. It's in a horrible position. And then Sony buys the team. The idea behind this was, and the term apparently verbatim had been used, that Concord is the future of PlayStation. That they had such major ambition for this game that it was referred to internally as a Star Wars-like project for Sony. That it can be repeatedly revisited over and over and over again, not only in cross-media, but in what we were seeing. We've already kind of seen little bits of it. So the weekly story vignettes that they were going to release, and then, of course, the inclusion in Amazon's Secret Levels anthology, that's like just scratching the surface of it. Ironically, the game was codenamed Chaos behind the scenes. And a major thing about the game is that there was, and I think we can kind of get this vibe from just the nature of the people making it and kind of the way the game reads and all that, a toxic positivity vibe. You weren't allowed to say anything, apparently internally, about this game. About how like something's wrong with it, character designs are not right, and so on and so forth. They really truly believe this was Herman Hulst's baby, apparently. And he internally was himself a massive champion of the game. So it's not that. So the reason I'm telling you all of this, it's some interesting information, of course, but it's that I had said when people were like, Concord lost $200 million. Now people were pulling that money out because that's basically how much like some of the first party games like Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, etc., kind of cost in that frame. And I was like, there's no way that it cost that much. I was saying like it cost 9 figures, probably like low $100 million, but there's no way it cost $200 million. No, it cost $400 million. So, and I am totally solid on this source, by the way. So that's why I'm willing to share it with you. Because again, I'm not really a journalist. So yeah, the big things to take away: $400 million loss. The game was in horrible shape as of 18 months ago before release. Not even monetization, no onboarding, most content not even there. The game was in such bad shape at that point that they spent the budget of it again in urgent outsourcing to get the game finished from all of these different angles over an 18-month period. Internally, the game was considered part of the future of PlayStation with heavy cross-media references and a system of toxic positivity surrounding it that didn't allow anyone to meaningfully change the course of the game. Because if the people at the top truly believe in something, you're not going to be able to do much about that, I don't think, from the trenches. So I thought people would be interested in that, and just wanted to throw that out there that, yeah, Star Wars really apparently, or I'm sorry, Star Wars, Sony really saw this as a Star Wars-like project for them, like the potential to, and now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Not only why they spent so much money on it, but why they bought the team. So there are people there, and to me, it's unclear who exactly the people are. I know some of the names. I don't want to get too deep into that because a lot of the things I learned were off the record, but obviously this is on background. And it's like, yeah, now it makes a little more sense. You spent, and by the way, the $400 million not included in how much it cost to buy the team. So yeah, so Concord is Sony's biggest released game by budget to date. And it is the biggest loss that they've ever had as a company on a project.
Oh my Lord. Oh my God. Okay, so first off, shout out to Colin, because as he said, he doesn't normally do this stuff anymore, but he came out of retirement. He came out of retirement for the Concord situation, which is good to see. And I believe this 100%, but okay. I mean, sure, take it with a grain of salt, but every single thing that was said is 100% believable. You have to ask yourself, what leads to PlayStation CEO abruptly saying, hey guys, I know we're just in the middle of the generation. I'm leaving now. Bye. Connie Booth. Connie Booth was a producer for PlayStation Studios for 31, I think for the entire time, for 30 years. I think she was with the company for like 32 years. She gets axed. No one knows why. All these live service projects get shut down. Dude, I'm like trying to process the information that I just heard, like listened to, because I knew, listen to me. I knew that Sony really, really believed in Concord. I knew they believed in it. I did not realize just how much they really believed in it. Now, here's the thing. I was like, okay with all of the information that I heard. And when I say okay, I mean that as in this happened. It's over. We're moved on. We're going forward now. Concord's dead. I was like, okay with everything until I heard him specifically say that according to his source, this was Herman's baby. This was Herman Hulse like, let's go. This is the future of PlayStation. Because Herman Hulst is still at PlayStation and he is now the CEO. And there's something about this that I don't... To me, that's the only thing that sounds a little bit shaky to me. Because I don't know if you're Hiroki Totoki or the CEO of Sony, right? If you're at the top of Sony at an executive level, I don't know how you promote this person. It makes literally no sense. Unless the only thing I can think here is that they just put the blame on Jim. Like Jim is the, Jim Ryan, he was responsible for Herman. The Bucks, I guess, stopped with Jim. And so maybe it didn't matter. Like what I mean to say is maybe the higher up executives at Sony are not aware that this was Herman's baby per se. But they just figured, like, Jim, you're the one who was responsible for this, so you're gone. I don't know. This is so... I am so glad Concord failed. Like, I'm not just glad that it failed. I'm glad it failed this spectacularly. Because this was needed, desperately needed, to pop the bubble that all of these people were in. Colin says that apparently the culture around this game and this project was toxic positivity. You could not say anything negative. You could not say anything bad. This is exactly why this needed to happen. Because all those people who were just constantly living in a state of delusion, and anytime somebody would come around and be like, guys, I don't know about this. This might not be good. This could be a problem. We might need to change this. No. You're just being negative. You don't believe in it, bro. You're just like them. You're just toxic. Get out of here. All those people who had that mentality and that attitude, I hope they realize now, no, you were the problem the entire time. And look at what happened. The game loses over $400 million. Doesn't even make barely more than $1 million back. Game gets canceled after it's released. Biggest flop of all time. And now heads are rolling. Now people are going to lose their jobs. This is why, man. This is why you need it. I was dead on. I don't normally brag about being right about shit, but I was dead on when I said we need fucking real adults managing these studios, running this shit. Because what we have are delusional children, apparently, that just want to live in their bubbles. And this is the result. You're out of touch with reality. You're out of touch with your audience. You're out of touch with everybody. You're in your Washington-based office. You're in your Californian HQ, drinking the Kool-Aid every day. Anybody who walks in that doesn't want to drink the Kool-Aid, get the fuck out. And this is the result. So I do not feel the least bit sorry. I only feel sorry for the people who actually knew that this shit was about to happen, and now they have to suffer the consequences because nobody would listen to them. Those are the only people I feel sorry for. I knew this shit. I knew there was something so wrong with Concord. Something so fundamentally, like not even just the game. I'm not even talking about the game. Because I said to you that like some of the people who worked on this clearly know how to make a video game. But just something about the way it was, the way Sony talked about it, the way it was presented. And then when we finally saw the final end result product, I just knew like, oh my God. Oh man. Like somebody's got to go right now. And according to this new report, see, this is the shit. This is why, man. This is why. Like, I just want to be happy about PlayStation. I just want to feel good about Sony and what they're doing at PlayStation. This is why when I hear shit like this was Herman Hulst's baby, why the fuck is this man promoted? I am now terrified about the future of PlayStation. Either that or I hope Herman got the wake-up call, bro. I hope he got the wake-up call. Hey, man, you just blew $400 million. Biggest failure of all time. That's you. You're responsible for that. Maybe not 100%, but you're at the top now. And you were the head of PlayStation Studios. You believed in this. This was the, quote, future of PlayStation. Herman has dirt on somebody higher up. That would explain it. I don't mean to like really blow a gasket right now, but it's just this is insanity. And I'm like I would have accepted everything we just heard and said, well, at least it's over now, guys. I would have accepted that and moved on and say Concord's dead and buried. And it was just a big mistake, and we'll all just forget about it. Jim Ryan's gone. Connie Booth's gone. The people responsible are gone. No, apparently the person who believed in it the most is now running all of PlayStation Studios, like all of the creative stuff. I don't know, man. Maybe some people think I sound too harsh or I'm being too crazy, but I do not want to see a situation where like I bitched about Xbox for years. And one of the reasons I bitched about Xbox for years is because after so many different like moments of failure, like I do believe in second, maybe even third chances. I do believe in that. But I've said over and over again that like, how are the same executives at the Xbox division still in charge after so much failure? Like, how is this even possible? How do you not have new blood in there? I do not want to see something like that happen with Sony, especially from the creative side, where it's like, this is a failure on a level that, like, I don't know how you keep your job, let alone get a promotion. And what scares me the most is this. Is it because there are still people there that actually believe we are the ones that are wrong? Are there people still in charge that actually think like, no, we can do something with this? They just don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand. They don't know the greatness. This is our Star Wars product. Because holy shit, if that's true, fire anybody who believes that. Like, they gotta go. They can, like, I don't mean to sound so fucking brutal and draconian, but they gotta go. Because that is the most delusional shit. That's another level of delusion. God, man, what a shit show. What a shit show. You couldn't fail any worse than Herman did, and he gets promoted. Jeez, man. Pietrek F says Concord on PS5 Pro would look amazing. Do you hear anything I just said, Pietrek? You trolling me now? That's wild. Dude, honestly, like, I wish Colin would do this more often. Because he clearly Colin is really good at reporting on stuff like this, and he got the real juicy details that nobody else got, because this shit, like $400 million, not even counting the purchase of the studio. What in God's name? What? And you know what? Yes, now I believe it. People were saying, bro, we're going to have to pay for this failure. This is why $5 increase to the fucking DualSense, $700 PS5 Pro, greenlight even more remasters because we need those $10 upgrades or full price. We need it all. And you're damn right. You almost lost. You probably, if you factor in the purchasing of the studio, you probably lost $500 million on a fucking failure of a game that nobody wanted and nobody asked for. Jason just said it's fake on reset error. Uh-oh. That would be crazy. Now, if that... Hold on now. We got some insider drama going on. Uh-oh. Jason Schreier about the dunk on Colin? Because I'll tell you, I don't think Colin... He said it multiple times, dude. He's like, I would not be talking about this if I was not positive about the source. And I'll be honest, man, like the reason why I'm maybe I almost hope it's fake. I'll be honest, man. Like there's a part of me where it's like I don't take pleasure in going over that, like this information that's just like so on a scale from 1 to 10, how much of a failure and how bad was Concord? It's like, oh, it's like a 20. You know, like I thought it was just a 9 or a 10. And I could live with that. It's rare that it happens, but fuck, it happens. 10 out of 10 level of failure. Okay. Shit. Let's not have that happen again. Let's move on. But like a level 20 out of 10, that's what this is sounding like. And I would prefer, I would really prefer to find out that half of this information is false, that it didn't cost $400 million, that it wasn't her. Like, I want to know, dude, I hope Herman comes out and clears the record or something, because I will not be able to accept Herman Hulst as the CEO of PlayStation Studios knowing that this was his baby. Like this was his project, man, that he really believed in. Yeah, Aaron, you're saying, do you think Xbox and Sony will give up exclusives to Switch 2 as the Switch 1 has outsold both PlayStation and even Xbox when combined? There's been some speculation that maybe Sony will start to bring some of their games over to Switch 2, but as I've said before, like I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I can kind of accept like maybe something like Lego Horizon, where it's like, yeah, it's Lego, it's geared towards a younger audience, you know, sure. But as for like Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn being ported to Switch 2, I'm not 100% sold on that. I gotta see. I don't know at this point. Sony, if this is to be believed, Sony's got to make up for a lot of loss. So I guess we'll find out. God damn it! Saying all this uproar over rumors. Yeah, but I just wanted to say this too. I'm getting this worked up because, dude, I suspected this. Like I could smell this on the game, bro. I'm like, this reeks. This reeks of just, I know exactly the type of attitude and culture that went into the development of this product. I know exactly what it is. And that's where I'm like, dude, everybody, when this game first revealed, everybody was like, what the fuck is that, Sony? And Sony, you know Sony, like obviously we couldn't see the people that work at the company, but you know they were looking at this response like a deer in the headlights, like, what? Like, no, guys, you don't understand. You don't understand. Like, this is our Star Wars level project. Like, this is the future of PlayStation. And I knew, like, when I saw just how out of touch this game was, the first thing I thought was, who greenlit this? Who Who went through with this? And that's why I was not shocked. Even though it was like unprecedented, I was not shocked when the game got pulled after a week and a half. I wasn't, because I'm like, dude, you got to be on another level of delusion to not only think that this is what the PlayStation fan base wants, that this is what gamers in general want, but to really go all in, to quadruple down on it, not double down, not triple down, go all in with this. This is the future of your brand. Again, one of the most revealing things about Concord was Sony paid to have an entire episode of Secret Level, the Amazon series that's coming out in December. They paid to have an entire episode dedicated to just Concord. To just Concord. Not God of War. Not Bloodborne. Not even Horizon. Not Astro. No. Concord. Concord gets its own dedicated episode. And you're talking about an anthology series that celebrates the history of gaming. The history of gaming. Sony paid for that. That's why I believe this 100%. Because what kind of dope do you got to be smoking to think that this is what we got to really go with? Like we should pay to have this entire episode for this one game. You know? That's crazy. That's crazy. Broccoli Rob says the good shit. Yaren with another super chat says, watch Astrobot Day 1 goes to the Switch 2 and has an exclusive Mario level for Switch 2 and is not added to PS5 users. Yaren, all right, come on, bro. I mean, no way. That's like two bridges. That's like three bridges too far, man. I don't think Astrobot would make its way to the Switch, let alone get its own like dedicated level. That'd be really funny if it did, though. That would be awesome and funny. That would be something else, I'll tell you. That would be something else. But I don't think that's going to happen. I have a direct donation, by the way, from Moonshot. Thank you for that, buddy. And you say here, that's it. I swear if this state of play is trash with a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster announcement and little to no first party, me and Herman are fighting. We'll meet in the sand. Dude, at this rate, man, Herman's going to have to clear his name. Moonshot. I want to see what's going on with the situation with Jason Schreier, though, because people are saying that Jason Schreier's disputing. I don't know. I don't know what he said. They're just saying that he's disputing what Colin said. Let me see. I'm not seeing anything on the... Let me go check Twitter. My God, my screen is too bright. Hold on, guys. I gotta fix this. I'm like blinding myself here. There we go. Well, I'll tell you what, this clip that he posted on his Twitter is blowing up. It's not even an hour old and it's already at 140,000 views. All right, I'm not seeing... Let me check Jason Schreier's Twitter, see if he says anything. He hasn't said anything. Did he reply to anybody? You guys said it was on Reset Error? I don't I'm gonna need somebody to link that because I don't go to Reset. I don't really go to Reset Error. And actually get some Trismegistus comes in and drops 5 membership gifts for you guys. Actually, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate the consistent support with the membership gifts. That brings us up to 5. So actually gets it started. Guys, again, a reminder. We have a goal here of 50. It's totally cool if we don't hit it. But the idea is if we hit 50, we will do a bonus stream at the end of this one. A gameplay stream for members where we do specifically an Astrobot challenge run where I only play the challenge levels. I'm like totally cool if we don't hit this goal because that sounds kind of torturous. So I want to hit the goal, but it's like, you know, if we fall like 3 short, I'm okay with that. And OK drops another membership gift. He wants to get a membership train going. Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate
Really
it.
loud. All right, so that brings us up to 6 on the day. So, can somebody tell me exactly, like, can you quote what Jason Schreier said? Oh, shit. Hold on. We still get reps. If we hit 50, I'll still do reps. MBG, the guy said he lied on his name. Jason's, that is. I'm trying to find this. Like, I don't know. I just don't know where to look right now. I guess I could try reset era Concord Schreier. I'm not seeing it 20 hours ago. I can't find this, man. I fucking hate reset error. It isn't real, apparently. Yeah, I see people coming in asking me if I saw this situation with Concord and what Colin part. Yeah, we played the whole clip. Actually, you're saying I trust Colin more than that snake, Jason Schreier. I mean, my whole thing is I wouldn't be completely like thrown off guard if it's like, oh, some of the finer details were inaccurate. Like maybe it wasn't, dude. I hope we find out it wasn't $400 million because that is unfathomable. It's worth noting he did make it clear that it wasn't Sony that put the entire $400 million, right? Like Sony paid $200 million on top of what they paid for the studio, but a portion of that $400 million came prior to Sony getting involved. So, I mean, either way, though, the total cost of the project being $400 million for something on this level of a failure is like, how is that possible? What an absolute nightmare, dude. Checking to see if I can find any updates here. Well, one of the other reports we were going to talk about is how Kotaku is reporting that the head of Firewalk is stepping down, and apparently, some developers are even leaving already. Some are preparing to find, like they're waiting to find out what their severance packages are going to be. Sorry, I'm trying to see if anybody can link to Jason Schreier saying it's not real. I'm not seeing anything, man. I'm starting to think somebody in my chat maybe just trolled me. This person says a little more context. Firesprite was first owned by Probably Monsters, And when the game was seemingly in a bad state, Sony saw potential. They bought Firesprite and called it their next Star Wars. A part of that $400 million was burnt by probably Monsters, and the majority by Sony. And the buyout was not part of it. The individual themselves admits they are not a journalist. So I'll be taking this with a grain of salt. Yeah, but I mean, the thing about Colin is I don't know, man. He's been around for a while, and I just don't see this being something he would be willing to put out there if he wasn't damn near positive. Like super, super, super sure of the source. The source is Jim Ryan. Could you imagine that shit? The fucking source is Jim Ryan off the books. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if your source was actually Jim Ryan? Be like, yeah, you ain't touching me, bitches. I got this one wrapped up. That would be wild. Jim Ryan should become the next insider. He did say he had something else planned once he left, and he never said what it was. Maybe this was it. It was right in front of us the whole time. You think Colin? I believe what Colin said. I mean, look, I'm open to finding out that certain details are maybe a little bit off, but I think generally speaking, not a single thing he said sounds completely implausible. It all sounds, I mean, the only thing that is kind of like, whoa, excuse me, is maybe the $400 million, but that's kind of split somewhat between Sony and probably Monsters. But to me, it just confirms, if it turns out to be true, it confirms what I already suspected, which is somebody or a group of people within Sony internally are just so disturbingly out of touch that unfortunately it takes Concord's level of failure to, again, just kind of rattle their cage, get them to pay attention, get them to open their eyes, and get them to wake up and see, like, yeah, guys, no, pay attention, focus on what people really want. I'm just kind of waiting to see what else comes out with this, because I have a feeling we're going to be hearing more today. Oh, I got to replace. Sorry, I just decided to respond to this. I replied to the post because it's gaining a lot of traction, and I said this was Herman's baby. Like, I put Herman's baby in quotes. So this is the guy who is currently the CEO of PlayStation. That is concerning. Curious to see. I'm gonna laugh when Herman responds to me directly. He's like, "You shut the fuck up, MBG." MBG will definitely lose sleep over this. I'm gonna wake up at night screaming and sweating. Concord, $400 million. Days Gone Remastered. Yeah, I'm gonna end up developing like a Twitch, dude. What was that show? It's like the Fairly Odd Parents or whatever. It was like that teacher. He would just like, Fairly Odd Parents. He'd be like, Concord lost $400 million. Remaster Station 5. It's gonna have like a tick. This is where I'd put my new non-remastered PlayStation game if I had one. Well, I mean, there's Astrobot, you know. Herman about to shut down my YouTube channel. I don't know, man. I don't want to look. I don't want to make it sound like everything Herman has done is bad, because that would be unfair. Like, it's just like, wow, Herman, good job on seeing Astrobot through to the finish line, and, you know, making sure games like God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West and, you know, Ghost of Tsushima and all this stuff. Good job making sure that these games, you know, make it to the finish line. But then it's just like, but what's going on with Concord, bro? Yeah, it's like again, it's just a failure on a level that's just saying that was before Herman. Yeah, I guess maybe I think you're right. Herman, well, okay, yeah, let's think about it. Herman Holst became the head of PlayStation Studios in 2019. So for anything that came out after 2019, well, no, not anything, because if we think about it, like, oh, you know what? Hold on. This is interesting now. This is interesting because how many games do we know about or have come out Oh, you know what? I'm realizing that sorry, I'm just checking some of the replies. What source is that? I'm going to need a source on that quote, Chief. All right. Yeah, people are not going to watch the entirety of this 9-minute video. I'm realizing that. Like, I quoted what Colin said. What part did he say that? Let me see.
A lot of stories and other studios to finish. And so that's the first thing that I wanted to say, is that Sony put most of that money in, and unintuitive. There are games that are in development right now at Sony first and second party that are more expensive than this. $1 million. Spider-Man 3 is all of it because they made no money. This game was heavily championed behind the scenes. Now we know this because Sony ended up, what's funny is that the game is presented in Q1 2023 as this, you know, we're kind of getting towards the end. The game is nowhere near of PlayStation. That they had such major ambition for this game that it was referred to internally as a Star Wars-like project for Sony, that it can be repeatedly revisited over and over and over again, not only in cross media, but in what we were seeing. We've already kind of seen little bits of it. So the weekly story vignettes that they were going to release, and then of course the inclusion in Amazon's Secret Levels anthology, that's like just scratching the surface of it. Ironically, the game was codenamed Chaos behind the scenes. And a major thing about the game is that there was, and I think we can kind of get this vibe from just the nature of the people making it and kind of the way the game reads and all that, a toxic positivity vibe. You weren't allowed to say anything, apparently internally, about this game, about how like something's wrong with it, character designs are not right, and so on and so forth. They really truly believe this was Herman Holst's baby, apparently, and he internally was himself a massive champion of the game.
There we go. Oh man. Actually, is that true? Wait, are you making that up? That can't be true. Please don't tell me that's true. Timestamp. This is at around the I would say the 6 minute and 20-second mark. From that point, within the next 30 seconds, he mentions it. He didn't say it was quoted as Herman's baby. Oh, I'm sorry, Kane Z7. Yeah, my bad. You're saying time to go to Nintendo, MBG? Crackdown 3 level bullshit with Sony? Yeah, but the difference is, to be fair, Sony is still putting out stuff that I like and I care about, you know? So it's, you know, if that goes away, then yeah, I'm going to have to question what I'm doing. But as long as they keep making shit that I'm actually interested in, they just... I don't know, man. I just want to know what the fuck Sony is doing. Somebody's coming to my defense here a little bit. Herman's. Sorry. I'm just waiting to see like what else. When did Herman get the job CEO of PlayStation? Was it last year or this year? It was this year. Yeah, he got the position of CEO this year, but he became the head of PlayStation Studios. I think in 2019. I mean, this is why. This is another reason why the roadmap that we've been asking for is so critical, because it's like, it is great that we got plenty of games to play this year. It is great that we got Astrobot. And I'm not trying, you guys know, I'm the last person to take things away from Sony that they're doing right and good. But there is just no denying that Concord, especially with this latest report, it's just, man, it's even worse than we thought. We knew it was really, really bad. But this is like, wow, okay, this is mega bad. Like mega ultra supreme bad, right? And now we're hearing that there's going to be a state of play where we're not going to see new first party reveals, but we're going to get more remasters. And it's like, fucking hell. Like, we need to know what's going on at this point. Death Stranding, save us. Kojima, save us. Kojima needs to come out and save us, man, because this is Astrobot and Kojima combined. Astrobot, September release, 94 Metacritic, and then boom, Kojima comes out. Let me show you Death Stranding 2 on the beach. And all of this will just be a distant memory. And Herman can come out and be like, see, guys? See? I believed in Kojima's vision. I was there. I still know what I'm doing. Again, I should make something clear. And Kyle, I'm going to read your super chat in just a moment. I want to make this clear because I've been ranting and raving and all over the place. I want to make it clear that when I say I am concerned that Herman Hulst is the CEO of PlayStation Studios, that's it. It's nothing more. It's nothing less. I am concerned. There's no doubt he knows game development. There's no doubt He has a lot of experience in this industry. There's no doubt that he earned his way to his position and worked his way up. But with this new information, if it does turn out to be true that he was a huge champion of Concord and a big believer in it, and it was his baby, as they put it, it is concerning. And it makes me genuinely concerned about the decision making going forward when it comes to PlayStation Studios. And that's what this all comes down to. The future of PlayStation Studios. It's nothing personally against Herman, but it's like people basically destroyed Jim Ryan over and over and over again. And it's not that Jim... I always got the feeling that Jim didn't really know much about the game dev side, that he didn't really understand, like, what is it that people love about PlayStation, or what is it that people loved about the PS4. He seemed to understand the business side and the basics of, like, well, we need to make sure the really successful games get sequels. And we need to keep doing some remakes and remasters, and we got to make sure we don't go too far away from what people expect from the console. He seemed to understand all that. But this is why I always found it kind of curious, like, who was truly responsible for Concord? Like, was it Jim Ryan, where he's like, I love what I'm seeing, this is amazing? Or was it Herman? Because my view of it was always this. I always thought that basically Jim turned to Herman and said, Herman, listen, here's our strategy. 12 live service games, okay? We need to go all in with live service. So your job is you got to go find those games. Go create those games, go find those games. And that's where I feel like when I think about, okay, who would be the first person to see Concord and say, we need to bag that? I feel like it would be Herman. And I feel like Herman would then go to Jim and say, Jim, I found this game. I think it could be our Star Wars project. Really excited about it, you know? And Jim's loving what he's hearing. He's like, yes. Okay, Herman. Yeah, I like what I'm hearing. I never really imagined it as like Jim was the one at the studio play testing the game, seeing the game in action, and walking away saying, we need to get that. I'm not saying he didn't see the game at all. I'm just saying that, you know, I question how much of this, I question how many of the bad decisions that we've seen from PlayStation Studios, how many of those bad decisions fall squarely on the shoulders of Herman Hulst. And hearing something like this gives me a little bit more insight into, so apparently Herman had a lot to do, like a lot to do with Concord. It's concerning. You know? Kyle Say Stuff says, PC culture is extremely toxic right now. I worked on Snow White, and Disney told us we cannot say the word dwarf because it's offensive, and they'll let us go if we did. Sony is not Disney, but you get the idea. And then you say Linus Tech Tips also said Sony is doing this because Xbox gave them no competition. They're basically dominating the market and can do whatever they want. There is that concern. Yeah, I don't know that I'm fully on board with this idea that Sony is like, we could just do whatever we want. I don't think it's necessarily like, I feel like what you're describing are two different things, right? Where on one side, it's arrogance. Arrogance is, we have no competition, nobody can challenge us, therefore we can do what we want, and you'll deal with it. On the other side, it seems to be delusion, I guess is what I call it. You know, just being out of touch, where I just feel like everything we're hearing about Concord and kind of like what you're talking about, how there's like these environments where they're becoming like way too PC to a point where it's like, are you guys serious? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is nonsense. Like, grow up, you know? Like, we're adults here. But you're talking about dealing with people where they act like children, and it's like, no. Like, no, we've all agreed that we're not doing this. And it's like, but it's not that serious. Like, What are you talking about? And I don't know. I just hope somebody at Sony fucking gets it. Somebody. Whether it's Herman, whether it's Hiroki Totoki, whether it's somebody in between. I hope somebody understands that the pandering and the part of that pandering is like, yeah, we'll just tell ourselves it's good. We'll just tell ourselves it's okay. We don't got to worry about what anybody else thinks or says at all. I just hope somebody there wakes up and realizes, like, you're a fucking business. You're a product. You're a brand. You literally have to care about these things. Literally. You have to care about them to a certain extent. And if there's one positive that can be extracted from the Concord situation, just one positive, I would hope it's, well, there's your wake-up call, Sony. I don't know who needed to hear it. I don't know who needed to see it. I don't know who needed to have the bell rung, but there it is. So get it together. And this is why I think it's funny that, I encounter so many situations where people are like, why are you defending the pro? Why are you okay with it? Why are you okay with Days Gone or something getting remastered? And it's like, because this shit isn't really that consequential. That's like, this is the problem with people these days when it comes to, you got to pick and choose your battles, because some are going to be effective and actually matter while others will not. And the only thing I've tried to do is explain to people, like, here's what you need to focus on. And I'm not trying to like tell people like what they should do, but if you're going to ask or you're going to partake in it, like, here's my suggestion. Here's what you need to focus on. You need to focus on Concord. You need to focus on what's going on with the studio, with the situation, and stuff like this, where we're learning the details, because the devil's in the details here. Be upset about the Pro being $700, sure. But at the end of the day, it's not consequential, because it's a fucking optional console that Sony doesn't give a shit if you buy it or not. Same thing with the idea of a game like Horizon getting remastered. Like, whatever, dude. I'm not saying jump for joy and make it sound like Sony's killing it when they announce a Horizon remaster. But at the same time, like, understand that these things are not at the heart of the problem. Regardless of what people think. Like, they are just simply not the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem is more cultural and more just ass backwards thinking from certain people who are in charge and in higher up positions in this company. Somebody might think, well, a $700 price point for a console seems ass backwards and out of touch and delusional. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. If it was your only option. But it's not, and it won't be. So, again, what's the consequence here? There is none. Don't fucking buy it. Stay on PS5 or go to PC. There is no consequence. Everything's fine. Concord, on the other hand, what's the consequence here? Well, let's see. If it's true, it got anywhere near $400 million. Well, that's like fucking 2 massive AAA games right there. That's the size of 2 AAA games. And Sony bought the studio, so now they're fully responsible for the studio. And every day, Sony's bleeding money that this studio exists. So what's the consequence here? Oh, the consequence, Sony's bleeding a fuck ton of money, and it's hurting the brand. It's going to be felt on at the bottom line. And when it's felt at the bottom line, well, that's when things are going to start getting messy. That's when heads start rolling. That's when projects start getting canceled. That's when suddenly, yeah, this game that needs more funding, this game that actually matters, this game that people actually want, we can't really afford to give you those funds. Why? Because we just blew $400 million or $300 million on Concord and made $0 back. Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking consequential. Like, that matters to like all players at the end of the day. Whether you buy a base PS5, a Pro, or even if you're somebody who's waiting for these games on PC, that matters. That has a massive impact at the end of the day on the funding and the resource management of these studios who make the games, which I want to remind everybody, that's why we're here, for the games. The hardware is great and all, but the games are what matter. Titus, you're saying you don't agree the price of the Pro without a disk drive is a symptom of Sony's arrogance and hubris, even though I want one. It's a signal I don't like. I mean, look, I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying, like, keep in mind, I'm using the terms consequential versus inconsequential. And I'm specifically using those terms because I'm not trying to say that if somebody is upset and feels as though that Sony is making a bad choice by doing what they're doing with the Pro, I'm not trying to tell, when I say it's inconsequential, I'm not trying to tell you that the way you feel about it is completely not justified, because that's not true. Like, yes, it's a lot of money and it's annoying and it's frustrating for some people and it's going to price some people out. And there's going to be a level of emotional reaction to that where it's like, what the fuck, man? But I just try to bring these terms in because it's like, but what's the real consequence here if you don't get a Pro because it's too expensive? The real consequence is you're going to be apparently locked out of upgrades that most people are going to determine maybe not worth the $700. That's it. That's the biggest consequence you're going to have to deal with. And that's where it's like, well, yeah, I can see how if I was in that position where I couldn't afford a PS5 Pro, but I really, really wanted it, yeah, I would feel annoyed at Sony too. Like, damn, man. Sony, can you cut the price? Can you at least add a disk drive? Yeah, I'd be annoyed too. I would. But I'm talking from a more, like, again, just a more concrete, like, what is the bottom line here at the end of the day? Because that's honestly what I care about most. Like, what's the bottom line? You take something like Concord, the situation with Firewalk, the fact that Herman is responsible for it to a large degree. I'm much more concerned about what the fuck is the bottom line there, dude, than the bottom line of the Pro. Because there are just some things that I'm, like, for example, people are worried with the Pro that this is a sign Sony's going to go all digital next gen. And it's like, I dare them. Go ahead, try. Let me know how that works out for you. Go ahead. And it's funny because the level of backlash that Sony would get if they announced the PlayStation 6 without disc support of any kind, you cannot play physical media on this machine. The level of backlash will be close to what we saw with the Xbox One. That's literally what would happen. Because what people forget about the Xbox One is that there were a lot of people that were okay with it. There were a lot of people that actually were on board with the Xbox One, on board with the DRM, on board with the Kinect, on board with everything Microsoft was trying to do. But the internet was like, I don't fucking think so. That's exactly what would happen if Sony tried to pull some shit like that. And you might be asking yourself, well, how come that isn't happening now? Because again, the difference between a PS5 Pro and a PlayStation 6 is a PlayStation 6, while it is technically optional, it is the beginning of a new generation. As in, you might be locked out of games. If you don't buy a Pro, you're not locked out of anything, again, except certain upgrades that, at the end of the day, may or may not be substantial, you know? I'm just very concerned about the situation with PlayStation Studios, man, and Concord, because I knew it was bad, but this is just truly concerning, where it's like, I would literally rather Sony, if I had to choose, right, where it's like, we're doing just Concord, it's our only live service game. If I had to choose between that or, like, we're definitely gonna remaster, like, every PS4 game. I would literally choose them to remaster every PS4 game. Well, seemingly they're doing both, but I'm just saying, like, because Concord has the situation with the Concord has real consequences that are going to be felt, I think, by everybody who's even remotely involved with PlayStation. I'm not trying to make it sound like, it's going to ruin your gaming experience. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying that, like, when I hear a report like this where it's like, yeah, Sony may have lost like over $300 million, maybe even more than that. They made nothing. They just literally flushed $300 million down the drain. Yeah, when I see that come out as a report, and that report comes out like a week after they just raised the price of the DualSense by $5, it's like, yeah, I'm starting to think there's a connection here. And now we're hearing, oh yeah, Days Gone is going to get a remaster. And the first thing everybody asks is, why? And I'm not even opposed to it, but it's like, yeah, like, what? Wait, why? That game holds up really well. That game came out in 2019. Like, why does that need to be remastered? And you guys don't seem to have any interest in doing a sequel. What's going on? And it's like, we need money, like, right now, like, very quickly. And even something like the Pro. Is Sony making money on the Pro? Yeah. It feels recoupish. Exactly. Now, I'm not saying that if Concord didn't exist and Sony didn't lose that money, that they wouldn't still want more money. They would. But I'm saying there wouldn't be this level of urgency where it's like, holy shit, we need to make this up, like, sooner rather than later. Because you have to understand, like, every major loss that occurs is going to be reflected quarterly. Every quarter, Sony's got to go to the shareholders and they got to say, here's what we did good. Here's what we did bad. And it's a big deal because that's, you want to talk about when heads start to roll. Heads start to roll after quarterly earnings. If they're not, depending on how they're looking. If things are looking up, hey, you're doing good. Keep it up. Things start to go downhill. Oh, we might have to get you out of here, bud. They raised the price of the PS5 before Concord came out. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the state of the economy doesn't have a lot to do with it. It does, but I guess maybe an interesting way of looking at it is like, talk about the worst time to have your biggest failure ever. You know what I mean? Talk about the worst time to have your biggest failure in your brand's history, or close to it. Not saying there's necessarily a good time, but I mean, when the economy's tanked and money's already maybe tight. Yeah, I'm not saying there's the best time is no time. Hopefully, it never happens. But there's no denying that if something like this happened in 2020, Sony would feel it a lot less than they are now. You get what I mean? It would be it would still be bad, and they would still feel a sense of urgency, but it just wouldn't be as extreme, as intense. You're confident Sony had a pro patch ready to go for Concord? Yeah, I don't know, man. I just hope Sony can get their stuff together. That's all. I'm just checking to see if there's any updates. If anybody else is chiming in on this. far, I'm not seeing anything. I guess we'll wait on it. Sony's gonna go after Sony's gonna go after Colin now, bro. Fire Sprite new game details confirmed by several job offers. Dark horror narrative adventure. Narrative firmly into groundbreaking territorial next-gen hardware technology. AAA ambitious with heavy focus on art, animation, and delivering unique character performances to heighten player presence and immersion into new levels. Unreal Engine 5. I feel like we knew that for a while. Pretty sure Firewalk's making Until Dawn 2. Or Fire Sprite, not Firewalk. Well, all right, so here's the question, right? Here's the question. What does Sony do with Firewalk now? The studio put out a game that made them no money and was taken off the market. The game that they put out will not be accepted in any other form. They can't make it free to play. It won't work. The Concord name cannot be used. This is a team of 150, 160, you would assume, full-time developers. They're located in Washington, so it's a very expensive place to do business, to run a studio. They're one of the more expensive studios that Sony owns. I mean, I think the most likely course of action at this point is probably to shut the studio down, but try to disperse as many developers to other studios that can use it, that can use their talents. Because I just think it's over, dude. Even if they were to, because you have to think to yourself, even if Sony were to let Firewalk make a new game, like, yeah, go ahead, guys, give it another shot. You think Sony's just going to be like, yeah, here's another cool 150 million to potentially blow. Another cool $200 million. I don't think so. I mean, maybe there's a chance, and this is a slim chance, that they could shrink the studio down to basically AA size and then allow them to work on a AA game. But I think the studio is tainted, man. I think that it doesn't matter what they make going forward. Some people might think this is unfair, but I just think it's the reality. I don't think it matters what they make. I don't think it matters what they do. I think that anything they do, if they were to do something beyond Concord, is just cursed. People will not accept it. People will not forget. Oh, that's the studio that made Concord. Even if they make a game that's nothing like it. I think there's just no future for the studio. And I'm sure that many of the conversations that are taking place behind the scenes right now at Sony probably have to do with that. I'm going to, hold on. I just had to change the title because I just realized we didn't even talk about the original topic. Maybe co-develop a new game. Turning them into a co-development studio or like a support studio would be interesting. So for me, I'm not really too concerned about the studio itself or the future of it because that's whatever. Sony, do what you want. Keep them open, close them, whatever. My concern is I just want to know. I want to know what the. I want to know if there's going to be a culture shift. That's what I want to know. Like, for me, I think that's the most important thing. Where surely every studio head, every executive at Sony, like, this is why I said earlier, my biggest fear is that there are still people there that somehow believe in Concord. My biggest hope is that everybody watched this happen in slow motion, and everybody inside of Sony knows just how costly it was, where now the company lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Developers are going to get fired. People are going to lose their jobs. It's just an absolute nightmare. And I'm not saying it's, when I talk about the culture, I'm talking about, again, I know I've been using this word a lot, but the delusion. Whether you want to call it woke, whether you want to call it politics, call it whatever you want. But for me, it's just, I don't expect people to not have their own beliefs and their own viewpoints and their own way of going about things. But I just want there to be just some level of objectivity that is present, a force within PlayStation Studios that's like, listen, guys, I love the energy. And maybe most of you here, if not all of you, are good people, but this sucks. And this is going to lose everybody money and get people fired. Let's do better. Let's do something different. Let's do something different. Let's do something better. Let's get it together, guys. We can do better than this. That's what we need. We don't need this yes man shit. We don't need this, well, that guy's just being negative because, you know, he just can't see the greatness that we're making here. Yeah. Yeah, we only welcome people who only have something good to say. This is not a, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all situation. There are many times in life that call for that, but this is not one of them. You're talking about millions of dollars being handled. You're talking about, again, people's livelihoods. You're talking about a market. Right? You have to speak to the market. You have to speak to the audience. You have to speak to the fan base. And if you're too busy staring at each other, speaking to each other, constantly complimenting one another, and completely ignoring the market and the fan base and the audience, well, then no wonder this is the end result. And I'm not trying to make it sound like this is a problem we see across all of PlayStation Studios, because that's clearly not the case. There are many other studios underneath PlayStation that do great. But I just hope that this sends, like I said previously, a very clear message throughout, not even just PlayStation, but the entire gaming industry, where it's like, be careful how far up your own ass you go. Because when you come back out, you might not like the results. Write that down. I'll put that on a shirt. Be careful how far up your own ass you go. Oh. That's what happened to Bungie. Yeah, they found out. Capono says somebody clipped that. Hanzo said his pronoun is Cerny. As you might not be able to find your way back out. IP Gaming, you're saying, I swear MBG picks one of the 3 topics and spends 70% of his stream on that one topic. It's not always like that, but yeah, I will admit I do have that problem. That's why I'm sure you guys notice sometimes when I set up my streams, I just list one topic and put like one picture in the thumbnail. But I actually, so, like I usually have more topics listed, but I go with the one that I think I'm most likely to talk about most. I never really know what to do. Like, do I try to list multiple topics and make it, convey to people that we're talking about a bunch of different stuff? Or is it better to just go with one main topic of discussion? It's hard to determine sometimes. We have, it's funny because it's listed as anonymous. Okay, we have a direct donation from Anonymous. Let me know if you guys can figure out who it is. Dolt, you ugly butterscotch wanksta. Xbox is so ass. Bro. Xbox is so ass that Concord would be your biggest hit. That's savage right there, bro. Like even I think that's going too far. Anonymous. That's going too far, bro. Xbox, you deserve to lose your console and library and cry. Dude, Anonymous is nuts. Not only does he say, you deserve to lose your console, you deserve to lose your library too. You don't even deserve the games you paid for. Who is this maniac that walks among us? Who is this maniac? We know that tone. They sound dangerous. Who could it possibly be? Titus, you're saying set an alarm, 1 hour, boom, next topic. Well, on a more positive note, we have the entire lineup of games for TGS, specifically for PlayStation. So, as we perhaps expected, Sony will be bringing the PS5 Pro to Tokyo Game Show 2024. The exhibition, which runs from the 26th to the 29th of December, will be the first time the souped-up console is publicly playable. Visitors will get to try out a pair of PS5 Pro enhanced titles, and there will be other games available as well. So check this out. Here are the games that are confirmed to be part of PlayStation's booth at TGS. Astrobot, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, Dynasty Warriors Origin, Infinity Nikki, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, Metaphor ReFantasio, Monster Hunter Wilds, Neva, and Sonic X Shadow Generations. Now, for those who maybe forgot, by the way, the two PlayStation 5 Pro games that will be on demo are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Gran Turismo 7. But for those who forgot, on September 29th, the last day of TGS, I believe, there will be a PlayStation Presents Death Stranding 2 on the beach special stage. And there's going to be like a lot of guests and shit or whatever. So the fact that Metal Gear Solid Delta is going to be part of PlayStation's booth, so we were speculating a little bit earlier that Xbox is going to be at TGS, and we were thinking maybe it's going to show up there, but I don't know, man. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the next time we see a new trailer, maybe it could be at this upcoming State of Play, and then it'll show up at TGS. I don't know. But it will be playable on PS5, so I hope it gets Pro enhanced. I do. Saying, of course, nothing new. All right. Is this generation worse than the PS3? Well, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the PS3 generation. Like, I was there for portions of it, but not the entirety of it, and I specifically was not there at the beginning of it. And from what I've heard from people who were there at the beginning of the PS3 generation, they kind of laugh. Like when people bring that up, they laugh at that because they're like, dude, the beginning of the PS3 generation was awful. Like the biggest problem apparently at the beginning of the PS3 generation, outside of Sony just kind of messing up the reveal and the price point, was people were saying like they didn't really have any games and they didn't have any like really good games. And it took them a couple years to get to that point. And I feel like, I don't know, man, when I like one of the more disingenuous things that people I think kind of say in regards to the PS5 so far is they make it sound like there haven't been good games to play. And I think people confuse this with there's a difference between having dedicated PlayStation 5 exclusives to kind of get you excited about playing this one game on this machine versus just having a slew of different games to play that are going to be good. And I get that. Like in terms of exclusivity, this might be the worst generation. I don't know. Like we've never really had a generation like this where we have all these games like God of War Ragnarok and Horizon and, you know, get like Spider-Man Miles Morales and whatnot. But all like most of these games, like 8 out of 10 of these games, or like I guess you could say 80% of these games, they're cross-gen. So it's like people naturally say, well, if it's not an exclusive, then it doesn't really add as much value. But I don't know, man. I've never really looked at it that way because like when I played any of these games that I mentioned that are cross-gen, like when I played them on PS5, I know they're also playable on PS4, but I don't want to fucking play them on PS4, you know? Like I want those instant load times. I want those higher resolutions. I want the 60 FPS performance mode. I want the DualSense and the, you know, haptic feedback and everything. So I get where people come from, but generally speaking, I feel like it's been a pretty good gen so far. But obviously, we have like 4 more years of this generation. So it's like I would like to see it improve. I'd like to see it get better, you know? I think everybody's kind of rooting for that. So I just went on to the PS5 subreddit and they posted about this report from Sacred Symbols. Per Concord developer, vetted by Colin Moriarty, Concord costs over $400 million to make, but they label it as possibly misleading. I think, yeah, the $400 million number is very much confusing people. It's very important that people listen to what he said. Because I think a lot of people are going to run with that number where they're just going to be like, yeah, it's 400 million. That's how much Sony paid. But it's like, well, Sony paid probably 250, maybe 300 of that 400 million. A certain portion of that was from probably Monsters before Sony acquired them. He did state that in the clip. And that's why I think people are like, it's still, like, I still count it, but Kyle Say Stuff says, we all thought SIE is going to shut down during the beginning of the PlayStation 3 era. It got better mid-gen with God of War 3 and way better late-gen with GTA 5 and when The Last of Us came out. Yeah, that's when I really started to kind of like notice the PS3 more. I'm like, damn. But I don't know. I was still stuck on Xbox. But I was like, all right, yeah, I see Sony's starting to really come out swinging now. It was an interesting time. So long ago. Kazjam says, this gen feels like PS 4.5. No new experiences. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I would say it's like PS 4.5, maybe like PS 4.75. No, I get what you're saying. This generation has been treated very differently by Sony, and you know what I often think to myself? I wonder, what if games like Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, what if all of these games were PS5 exclusive? Like they never launched on PS4. Like how differently would people feel? Would it change anything or not so much? And Bismarck129 says PS5 does feel like the reverse of PS3. PS3 had a bad release and got better over time. PS4 had a good release but got worse over time. That's an interesting way to view it, Bismarck. And I could see that. Yeah. It does. I think the biggest thing right now is it feels like we should know a lot more than we do. Right? I think that's probably the biggest issue is it feels like we have this wide open time frame in front of us where it's like, yeah, we got at least 3 years, but probably 4 solid years. Like a whole half of the gen in front of us. And we just really don't know much. Like there, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, oh, there's Death Stranding 2, and I'm excited, but Wolverine? You know, outside of that, it's like we don't really know much. And I'm trying to be understanding of the fact that, you know, this shit's taking a lot longer. So if there's kind of like this awkward middle, this like really awkward, uncomfortable middle where it's like, yeah, normally you would know about stuff right now, but it's taking a little bit longer. So we're basically running a little bit behind. Like I'm curious to see where we are September 2025. What will it look like then? What list of games will we have then? You know? It's like, it's the same. Let me see where we're at in the stream here. Oh, okay. We're making pretty good time. All right, so what do you guys think about the Days Gone remaster? We did talk about this yesterday. I wanted to bring it up one more time here because it's something that apparently is going to be announced at the State of Play, and it seems like, I don't know, most people seem to not be happy about it, but I have seen people being like, yeah, I'd be excited for it. You don't think it's needed? Kaz Jam with another super chat says, how many more first party games do you think we'll get for the remainder of this gen? I say 5. That's a good question. If we're not counting remakes and remasters or upgraded PS5 Pro games, do we count Death Stranding 2? If we're counting Death Stranding 2, if we're counting that, then I'm thinking 1, 2, 3. I'm thinking like maybe, yeah, honestly, maybe 5, but possibly 6 if there's a little something extra ready to go. But here's another question though, Kazjam, right? Like, will the PlayStation 6 be cross-gen? Because if the PlayStation 6 is cross-gen, then if you're talking about how many first-party games are we going to get on PS5, I mean, at that point, it could go up to 7, 8, 9, you know? Because if cross-gen is going to be a thing for like 2, 3, 4 years with the PlayStation 6, then you're pretty much going to get every game But if you're talking about just between now and 2028, I think like 5. Again, if we're not counting remakes and remasters, if we're not counting that stuff, it's a good question though. Kyle Say Stuff says PS3 failed due to huge success of the PlayStation 2. The PS5 felt mid due to the huge success of the PS4. There is a chance the PS5 late gen will be a banger, like most generations, but that's in 2028, and we don't really know it yet. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, when you look at the launch of the PS3 and you look at what Sony was coming off of, like, dude, they sold like 155 million units, and there was nobody anywhere remotely near Sony. I'm not saying it's justified, but you can kind of logically understand like why they were like, oh yeah, we could do whatever the fuck we want, you know? You could kind of see how them being completely isolated with that level of success and nobody even remotely close to them, how that could get into their heads and lead to that kind of arrogant mindset. But the idea of the PS5 generation, the end of it being much better, it does come down to the roadmap, man, because I mean, when we talk about like 5 first-party games being ready before the end of the gen, I mean, I'm thinking like, okay, Death Stranding 2, Wolverine, Ghost of Tsushima 2, that's 3, Venom, that's 4, and 5 could maybe be Blue Point, you know? Or maybe take out Blue Point and put Sony Bend. I think the real question, truthfully, is the studios we haven't heard from. Sony Bend, Sony Santa Monica, Guerrilla with some of their projects, Media Molecule, Housemarque, Blue Point, and the list goes, Fire Sprite. The list really goes on here. I think the real question is like, when are these games, like, are they targeting a release in the next 3 years? I mean, my whole thought with, like, I think about Blue Point, right? And Blue Point, they shipped Demon Souls in 2020. I don't think it's going to, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to take them 8 years. You know? Like, it could take them 6, maybe even 7, but 8+ years, I don't know. I don't know. Then again, Concord took 8 years, so yeah, Naughty Dog, of course. Naughty Dog, we get it. Like, what's going on with them? And Kane-Z7 says never played the original, might get the remaster. Yeah, I don't know. I understand people's consternation with the remasters. I do understand it. It doesn't look good. Like, optically speaking, it doesn't look good. Like, hey guys, here's a $700 PS5 Pro. Tune into the State of Play. Here's Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, and don't worry, we got you covered. Days Gone Remastered. Take care. Like, I get it. I totally get why it's like people are going to turn and be like, what the fuck was that? You're talking about the expectation at this time being, all right, what's Naughty Dog been cooking up? Where's that Santa Monica new IP? Where's Sony Bend? I totally get it. But I think maybe the big confusion that people have with these remasters is, regardless of how annoyed you are by them, the most important thing to understand is again, if we're talking about how consequential are they, like, dude, these remasters are not taking up like important resources or dev time. Somebody said, and I think I read this in a comment recently, they were saying, I think Sony might be pumping out so many of these remasters, even for games that maybe feel like they don't even need it, as a kind of like something to just offer from the studio because the games are taking so long. And that does make sense. And I think something else that people probably should understand about AAA game development these days is that depending on where the studio is when it comes to the development of their game. So like if let's take Sony Bend, for example. Sony Bend started working on a new IP in, I think, 2021. There are different phases of game development. And one thing that we know does occur from time to time is there are chunks of developers that are kind of left with nothing to do for a certain amount of time until basically the game makes progress. And then once that game makes progress, then they all come in. But that does happen in a AAA development cycle. And it seems to me like maybe one of the things that Sony has kind of tasked these studios, and we're talking about large studios, it's not the case for every studio, but if you have a studio with like 250, 300 devs, there's a chance that at any given time, a chunk of those developers, not like a large chunk, not like 100 of them, but just a chunk, maybe like 30, 40, 50, aren't really, like, they don't have anything to do because whatever section of the game is being worked on, like, they're not needed for it yet. So this idea that it's like, well, why don't you guys for the next year or even like 6 months, why don't you work on or new hires? That's another, why don't you work on a remaster? And it's, because I think what people also forget is that, like, the purpose of these studios is to make Sony money. I mean, their purpose is to make games, but make games to make Sony money. Like that's why they exist. That's why PlayStation Studios exist. So I'm like really curious, like who spent time on making Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster? Like who developed that? Who developed Days Gone Remaster? If Sony Bend did the Days Gone Remaster, I'm telling you, that's number one. Either new hires worked on it to get familiar with the engine or the tech, or just, I don't know, just to give them something to do, build their confidence. I don't know. It's either that or there was a group of Sony Bend devs where it's like, it's a new IP. We have like 25 devs here that really, they can't be used right now. Like they're coming to work and they're just idle. Like we can't have them do anything right now. Oh, yeah, put them to work. Yeah. And I get it. I do understand where people come from, where they're like, well then, okay, that's fine, but why not let them do something else? Like, for example, if it like Guerrilla, like rather than remastering Horizon Zero Dawn, why not remaster Killzone? And that to me is more of the Sony business side, where they're like, yeah, no, we would rather you work on the thing that's going to make more money. And the harsh reality, and I wish it wasn't like this, but it's just the way it is Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster is going to make more money than a Killzone 2 remaster. It just will. The Horizon IP is just more profitable, significantly more profitable than Killzone ever was. And I say that as somebody where I would like a Killzone remaster. So I understand the consternation, because we have to understand, like, these remakes or these remasters, it's like, hey, Sony, can we see that roadmap? No, but here's Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone Remastered. You know what I mean? It doesn't help, where it's like, oh, I mean, I was kind of hoping for new games. It's like, no, not yet. When? I don't know. It's like that kind of feels like Sony right now, where you get, the fans are like, all right, Sony, maybe you've lost your mind a little bit with Concord and the price of the Pro, but let's see those new games. And they're like, we don't have them. Well, why not? Because they're not ready. When will they be? Fuck if we know. It's really how it feels. But eventually they'll be ready, And for me, the more important factor here is I'd rather these games take long and be worth the wait than be rushed and just turn out to be shit, right? London with the super chat says, God of War 2018 and Days Gone are my favorite games of the PS4 generation. Platinum Days Gone and got the free themes. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. The last time I played Days Gone was in 2019 when it launched. And I didn't replay it on PS5 or anything. And people are saying it runs really good and it looks really good on PS5. And so that's why I'm like thinking, all right, if we really do get a Days Gone remaster, they're going to have to really make it look good. Like, it's going to have to show like, yeah, this looks way better, you know? If they can do that, I think it would help justify it a little bit more. But you know what my whole thing is? Because, London, you're saying Days Gone is one of your favorite games. Dude, I love that game as well. That was one of my favorite games I played on the PS4. My whole thing with this, and it makes me not upset, but just it discourages me to see so many people getting angry about a Days Gone remastered, only because I just wish more people would see it as an opportunity. Because that's how I see it, man. Where I'm like, guys, this is our chance to let Sony know, like, we want more of this. Like, we don't want to see them abandon this and lock it up. And that's how I kind of view it, where Sony's already made, you know, they're putting money into making a Days Gone movie. And if they're releasing a remaster, like, I'm not saying you should buy it just for the sake of buying it, but I'm just saying if it's one of those things where it's like they're going to be paying attention to how much interest is going to be garnered with Days Gone. And I don't know, I could be wrong, but I have the belief that yeah, that's true. You're saying 8 to 10 million already bought Days Gone. We already told them we want a sequel. That's true. Yeah. So I guess maybe my view of it is like, if Sony comes out and they're like, listen, we took the time and effort to remaster Days Gone. My read on that is almost like, well, okay, if it already sold well, then surely this has to mean that, like, you guys are going to do more with this, right? Like, I don't know. Sony seems to be against remastering games that don't have future potential. It's exactly why we're not going to get a Killzone remaster, because they're like, yeah, we're not trying to grow Killzone. We already tried that and it didn't work the way we wanted it to. That's why I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, I guess my fear with the Days Gone remaster is this. Yes, a film was confirmed. We did talk about this yesterday briefly, but for those who maybe didn't tune into yesterday's stream, a Days Gone movie is in development with an Oscar award-winning writer. So it's a thing that Sony is like, yes, we are doing more of this. My fear with the Days Gone remaster is, I hope it's not just a thing where Sony's like, just squeeze a couple more bucks out of it and then throw it in the can, you know? Like, I hope that's not it, because that would suck. That, to me, that's what would feel like a slap to the face. Where it's like, yeah, we have no plans to do anything with this. Sorry. But we're just going to try to make a couple more bucks before we get rid of it. I don't like that. If it's the opposite, where it's like, yeah, we're doing this because we actually see future potential with this and we want to do more with it, I actually am like, okay, yeah. I know a lot of people are going to be against it, but that's all I need to hear. I'm behind that. MBG, I'm genuinely blown away that you're looking forward to a remaster of a game that looks modern and runs in 4K 60 FPS HDR. I'm just blown away at people that are excited for this. Well, I didn't necessarily say I was excited for it. I'm not like, I'm saying that in order for me to care and be like, oh, I think I will play that, they have to show a huge, like, improvement. Because that's the thing, like, Chris, you're not wrong. The game looks great. I'm not saying it looks like a native PS5 game, but dude, if you play that, I've seen footage of it. If you play that on your PS5 at 60 FPS, it looks fantastic. And it's on PC as well. So if you want the absolute max settings, you can get that on PC. That's why I'm saying, like, it almost makes me wonder if, like, more went into it. If they, like, because it is questionable. It is like, well, how much better can it really look? Or it could be something like maybe they made new content for it. I mean, that's kind of what sold people on The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, where it's like, this doesn't look that different, right? It looks a little bit better, certainly than the PS4 version, but it doesn't look that different. It's like, yeah, but we have a whole new game mode here. We have new, fresh content. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll pay the $10 for that. And I wonder if it's something like that, where I think the whole point of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, it was not for people who already bought the game. I think the point of that was to try to court new people on PS5 who missed it, who missed the PS4 version. And that's why I feel like the new content is there for people to pay $10 for. Do you want the I forgot the name of the mode. What did they call it? But the new mode that they added, like, do you want to pay $10 for that? And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, that's worth $10. Seems pretty fun. And I'm like wondering if with Days Gone, there's something. Maybe that's the plan. Is like, it's not going to look that much different, but we're going to have a $10 upgrade path. Yeah, no return. Thank you. We're going to have a $10 upgrade path, and if you're not interested in replaying the game and you feel like that's not worth it, well, we have new content for you. That would be great. I would be shocked. Like, that would actually shock me if they have new content for Days Gone. And like, if they remastered it and are like, we got some new content, I would be convinced, like, oh yeah, they're doing more with this. They wouldn't just make new content for no reason. So I would actually be pretty excited at that point, but I don't know, man. We're gonna find out. Maybe the rumor's false at the end of the day. I don't know. I do not know. But guys, we're gonna be wrapping the stream up in just a minute. In a couple minutes. So I'm going to do like a last call. I'm going to do a last call for if you have any more super chats you want to drop, any more direct donations, any more memberships, now would be the time. We're sitting at 6 members, so we're not hitting that 50 mark. So there's not going to be like a bonus challenge run Astro stream, unless somebody wants to drop like 50 bomb, by all means, go ahead. But yeah, we'll do like a last call here before we wrap this up. Before that though, I want to go check a couple of things. Let's see here. Oh, wow, dude. This clip from Colin Moriarty is almost at 1 million views. Wow. Dude, it's really blowing up. It's really blowing up. Disco Cobra 2013 with the $10 chat says, I think it's insane that Sony made that much of a gamble on a title like Concord. Knowing the current market for those shooters, we never needed it. They can't afford to make another mistake like that. That's a really good point, Disco Cobra. And I I didn't really look at it that way. Right? Like I didn't really look at it through the lens of you're right. Like they actually can't afford to do that again. Like that would be a like cataclysmic for them financially speaking. I mean, they would survive, but this is definitely done damage, but damage that they can repair and they can overcome and they can recoup like we talked about. But that's why yeah, man, I don't know if you've been here the whole time, Disco Cobra, but I would recommend coming back to the stream and watching what I said earlier, because I went on a pretty big rant, but I basically talked extensively about how I'm just very concerned about Herman Hulst and the leadership that's running PlayStation Studios, and just this kind of fear that, like, how out of touch are you here? Because we can't we can't have anything even remotely close to this happen again. And we also have London. He says, Days Gone, give me faster load times, maybe some ray tracing and improved foliage and bigger hordes. That would be cool. Yeah, I could see upgrades like that would be pretty neat. Specifically, the bigger horde upgrade would be sick. I could see them maybe doing something like that. I feel like they got to know that people are going to be pretty upset about Days Gone getting remastered. I feel like they're going to have to really sweeten the deal, you know? Generally speaking. Okay says, have a great weekend. PlayStation fans, brace for big changes. Okay, chiming in at the last second here. Brace for big changes. I think we're already starting to see that a little bit, you know? Anybody else get that feeling? I don't think, to be fair, okay, I don't know that all the changes are going to be bad. I mean, you say big changes. Big changes can be good or bad. But I get what you're saying. I think the cage has been rattled a bit here. Certainly. The cage has been rattled, but I think maybe it was necessary. You just hope the state of play is good. Brace yourself. I'm not saying it depends on what you expect. Like, it depends on what you would consider good. Maybe it'll get announced tomorrow. Maybe it'll get announced Monday. The state of play is coming, though. And I will tell you this. Don't expect any major first-party reveals. Just being honest. Don't expect it. I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting to see Naughty Dog or Blue Point or Santa Monica's new game. I don't think it's happening. What I am expecting is a lot of third-party games, maybe some bigger third-party reveals. That would be cool. Like Resident Evil 9 has been rumored. That would be exciting. But a lot of PS5 Pro enhanced games, a lot of first-party enhanced games, maybe, or at least some, and apparently some remasters, like Horizon and Days Gone. Like, that's my expectation. If Sony drops something on top of that, that surprises us, that's awesome. I very much welcome that. But right now, I don't know. I think Sony's got the rest of 2024 mapped out. And so if I'm being just completely realistic with you, I'm not expecting to get a roadmap from Sony till early next year. Okay, you're saying, side note, been playing God of War Ragnarok on PC, runs at locked 4K, 144 FPS with max graphics on my 4090. Truly a stunning showcase by PlayStation Studios. That does sound insane, dude. The 144 FPS at max graphics is what really got me there. That sounds nuts. Yeah, Ragnarok's a good looking game, dude. Right. Dude, I saw somebody say God of War Remaster Rock is going to get announced. I was like, it's pretty good. Remaster Rock. I see what you did there. You don't expect a roadmap at all, just a few titles at a time, with Wolverine as the North Star until it's out. State of Play Remastered. Yep. Yep. All right. Just checking one more thing, and then we will wrap this up. Okay. All right. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for today's stream. Before I head out, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I want to thank everybody who dropped any super chats, any direct donations, any member gifts. Really means a lot. I'm only able to, like I will continue to say as long as it's true, I'm only able to do this because you guys make it possible. And I'm very, very grateful for everything we have here. Very grateful for this audience and this community. So thank you guys so much. Friday streams are basically like kind of bonus streams. Sometimes I'll do them, sometimes not. But today I figured, I wasn't expecting that Concord thing from Colin Moriarty to come out, but interesting timing. That seems to happen quite a bit, actually. When I boot up these streams, something just randomly drops. But yeah, guys, the weekend's coming up. I hope you have a good weekend. Get some gaming in, right? And tomorrow's an off day for me. So we'll be back here on Sunday with a proper Sunday stream. And I guess we'll see what else happens between now and then. But the only other thing I'm going to ask you to do before you head out is to hit that like button for me. And I also just want to make sure to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for all the content and for all the streams. So if you see him in the comments, give him some thanks, show him some love. And Devil Shooter, thank you for what you do, man. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that's it. So I'm out, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. And until the next time, take care, everyone.